You are listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. I'm Elena Paweta, Executive Communication Coach and TEDx organizer. With each episode, I'll share with you communication tips and ideas from top business leaders to help you excel in your career. Welcome to the next episode of Ideas and Leaders podcast. Today, I have a great guest. She is Katie Burkhart, and she is a serial entrepreneur, and she is the mastermind behind MatterLogic, the smart system for running a purpose-driven business. And this is what we're going to speak about today, about purpose-driven business. What is it and how we can achieve it? Hi, Katie. It's great to have you on Ideas and Leaders.
Oh, hello. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So what is a purpose-driven business?
It's a great question and a wonderful place to start. So if anybody out there has ever watched the movie Forrest Gump, there's a brilliant piece in the film where he's gotten shot. Now he's in the hospital and his fellow recoveries are trying to figure out what to do with Forrest, who more or less stares at the TV all day. And someone grabs him and says, I'm going to teach you how to play ping pong. And the way that he starts that conversation is to pick up the ball and say, never take your eye off the ball. And when we look at business, the ball for a very long time has been making money. Everyone's here for the purpose of generating money. And everything we do as a business drives toward that end objective. How efficient can we be? What's going to give us a short-term gain? Can we crank even a little bit more productivity juice out of our people? Never mind if they're burned out. That's what we're trying to do. A purpose-driven business, everything is oriented around their purpose. And their purpose is really about why they exist and why they're doing what they're doing and why whatever it does matters as a company. And for us, Matter is all about delivering lasting value. So value comes in many shapes and sizes, but you need to be here to deliver value. And then everything about your business drives toward that end goal, including your money. As we like to say, money then becomes the resource, not the goal, to allow you to deliver that value, to take care of your team so that they can do their best work and do that over the long term. And if you're delivering that value effectively, the money, the profit will actually be the outcome of effectively delivering that value.
Yeah, I think that it is really hard to focus on your goal all the time, especially now we have so many distractions, so many things that it would be good to have, it would be nice to have because someone is doing it, or maybe we can do it. So do you have any strategies? How can we actually focus on the purpose and get rid of all the distractions?
So one of the best ways to do that is to train yourself to start working backwards. If you know what it is that you're trying to achieve, what outcome, what difference am I trying to make in the world? What problem am I trying to solve? How am I improving the lives of the people I serve, my customers? And then work backwards from that. If we're trying to achieve this, here are things we can do that achieve that. And slowly but surely, you start to whittle out tasks that, maybe you have been offering that service for years, but the truth is it's not really helping the situation. You're not actually fulfilling your purpose. In truth, it's a distraction down to, well, we picked up this software because everybody's using it and we thought it was cool. Well, why did you pick up that software? Is it actually helping you to fulfill your purpose and achieve the goals that you've set out to achieve? Or are you just doing it because it's shiny? And we think that it may be cool to add into the puzzle. So figuring out how to do that, I won't pretend that it's easy. It takes some significant discipline, but it starts to help eliminate that noise of either what was already there or in some cases the incoming noise, so that when you're taking something new on or you're choosing to continue pursuing an effort, you know why you're taking that action. There's a good reason for the effort that's being expended.
And what about leadership, because we speak about leadership a lot here at Ideas and Leaders podcast. Do you think that we need to change our roles as leaders if we want to run purpose-driven businesses?
I do. So one of the shifts that you have to start thinking about as a leader is that it's really not about you, and it's not about your company. And I think we've seen a lot of, leaders, especially founders, who get very personally invested, which I wholly understand. I'm a founder myself, my business and my work, they're my passion, and I'm so excited about it. But you have to figure out how to keep the passion, but disconnect the ego and say, I'm really here to deliver value to someone else. And I'm only successful if they're successful. And realistically speaking, the only way I'm going to deliver that value effectively and at scale is if I have a great team working with me. So a purpose-driven leader is really saying to themselves, I'm not here to tell everybody what to do. I'm actually here more as a coach or a conductor. I want to motivate my people. I want to lead by example so that I'm not holding them to any standard I do not hold myself. But then the rest of my time needs to be spent on helping them to do their best work and helping us to not lose that focus, because it is a team sport. It's going to take all of you to be able to achieve those big, hairy goals that you've set out there.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any ideas on how to better motivate your team, how to make sure that all of them are on the same page and they know the purpose, they know this final destination that we are going to?
Absolutely. So I think most organizations, the first place to start is to really make sure you're clear on what that value is. Even for businesses that have been in existence for a long time, sometimes there's a disconnect between what value you perceive you're delivering, what value your people are actually experiencing. Maybe people who've been at the company for a long time understand the value one way. People who are new hires may look at it differently. So really making sure that you've taken the time to first listen to the community you're trying to serve and understand what role you're playing in their life and how they really talk about it. What language do they use? What does that really look like? And then what else are they looking for? Because there's always opportunity, if you've got their trust and their respect, to help continue to improve their lives. And then understanding where your team is. Once you have that, then the next piece does come to shared understanding and making sure that you've taken the time in your plan to not only talk about, a couple of top level objectives, but really you want to start with, what do we help our people do, achieve, or become? What are our outcomes? Then let's take a look at the objectives that we're going to need to hit to make that happen. What are the key results to deliver each of those objectives? And then what are the tactics and even individual tasks that we're going to have to take to get all of this fulfilled all the way back? And by being able to run that line of your purpose from the top down and bottom up, what you're helping to do, and this is one way to do it, but you're helping to ground what someone is doing on your team every day to how that contribution actually makes an impact to what you're trying to achieve. And it gives them not only that impact sense, but it also gives them an understanding, a reason for what it is that they're doing, and it makes sense in context of what they're doing every day. Another really key way to do that, and we're going to do this more about, is the storytelling capacity. So Adam Grant has done research where he went out and said, how do I really help to motivate people? And what he found was the most motivating was for the team to understand, hey, this is the need that the person I'm helping needs help with. Like, this is their problem. This is how I'm helping. Cool. And then to combine that with actually getting to meet them in person. So whatever you can do to build what we call impact storytelling into your work as a leader is huge. And this goes back to the original concept of, it's not about you. So how do you tell stories that make the people you serve the hero? How do you show your team as the people that are really helping them to be successful? And how are you highlighting their stories so that you're getting to see both of those narratives in a really human way, because it's what really brings all the pieces together.
Yeah, so it all comes back to communication and storytelling, and leaders really need to be good communicators They need to be good not only in setting goals, but also in communicating those goals. Do
Yes.
you do you think that there is some strategy for communication, for really impactful communication, for leadership, for leadership storytelling, for communicating your strategy and your ideas?
So we would say, one, make sure that you know what your story is, your strategic narrative. Help me to understand, what's changed in the world. What are the challenges facing our people? What does success look like for them? And how is it that we're helping them to achieve that success as a team? And I think being really clear on that narrative and having everybody aligned around that narrative is so fundamental to be able to move forward as a group. So that's piece one. The second piece that I would say, as far as helping to get that strategy in there, is doing it constantly. And I think we have a tendency as leaders to be like, well, I get it. So like, it's okay if I don't talk about my strategic plan until we start doing strategic planning 3 years from now. My goodness, that's a long time to ask your team to stay plugged into what's going on around all the day-to-day noise that they have in their life, not only in their work. So we really like to recommend leaders think about, what do your communications look like on a weekly, on a monthly, on a quarterly, on an annual basis, so that you're doing this regularly and helping people to resurface those priorities and keep them focused on the things that matter. And combining impact storytelling with that is a great way to really weave, reminding people of, hey, this is why we're here. This is our purpose. This is the vision we want to achieve. Here's the mission that we're currently on. Here's how we're doing. And here's where I really want to focus for this next period of time, because that's really what's going to make a difference. And, let's hear from, a couple of people we've been working with over the last couple of months.
Yeah. And so you're saying that we need to know our purpose, we need to communicate our purpose, and when it comes to actually actions, what that we need to do, we need to at some point to operationalize our goals. We need to know what are our KPIs, and how do you see this process?
So this ties back into that plan. Now we know for the next, 3 years, here are the objectives we need to hit. Here are the key results that we're going to focus on this year. Here are the specific tactics or key result we're going to focus on this quarter, so that we're really targeting our actions into what we're doing. But no plan is complete if we aren't measuring things to understand what's working and what isn't. So certainly looking at where do we have some indicators to tell us if we're on or off track? Leading is always better. That's true for purpose-driven business as well. But also looking at not just measuring financial metrics or counting things. We like to talk about outputs versus outcomes. So outputs are the different things we made. Outcomes is the difference made by our stuff. So just knowing I gave 50 webinars doesn't tell me if anybody learned anything from those webinars. So making sure that you have the right metrics in place to tell you if you're making the difference or having the impact that you intended to have or not is really important, so that you're picking the right tactics, or you could very easily get to the end of the year and say, well, we did it, but maybe it wasn't as effective as we were hoping it would be. Then you're pairing that with some of the pieces that we talked about as far as regular communication, which is going to be critical, as well as regular review and learning. So a learning mindset is so important for purpose-driven business and for leaders as well, recognizing that you are not perfect. You are probably going to fail sometimes, and there are going to be problems, and that's okay. It's even a good thing. This is our opportunity to learn something new and to be able to do what we're doing better, because we now have this opportunity to take a look at it, and approaching your work with a curiosity, both as a team, not assuming things internally, but also not assuming things about your customers, the people you serve, because you're not them, so I actually listen to what it is that's going on, and then do balance that out with any behavioral data you can track. Sometimes what someone says and what they do are not the same. So where you can put those together is great. And the last piece that I'll harp on that I think is really important is your decision-making culture. How do you actually make decisions on a regular basis, both at the leadership level and throughout your company, which is why we call it a culture. As a purpose-driven business, probably the biggest things outside of regularly reviewing, learning, realigning your business and communicating out what's going on, the other piece that caused most organizations to fall down is the way that they make decisions. So kind of going backwards a little bit, it can be so easy to get those noisy idea fairies, or to stick to what we've So really making sure that people understand how do we make sure that we're making decisions aligned with our purpose, making sure that your whole organization understands how to do that, and setting up guidelines and a way to even see how did we come about this decision and why was this decision made this way. I think so often decisions get made whether you're purpose driven or not, and people don't understand how we arrived at this decision, and therefore it's really hard to move forward. So you get into this reasoning, which is part of where you get MatterLogic from, of how we're actually thinking about our business, as well as running it on a regular basis. And then there are other things to consider. We mentioned communication, how you work with your team, how you support and invest with your team. But I think we hit everything else as far as how we would really look to operationalize your purpose. But for anyone interested, we do have a 9-component system to really make sure that you're hitting all the areas that you need to hit.
Yeah, so maybe you can tell a little bit more about the system, how it works.
So in really simple terms, we've actually sat and gone out and said, okay, where do we see really smart things going on in the world of purpose-driven business? Where do we see smart things going on in the world of business? And how do we start to synthesize this down into a simple system that hits on the key elements that you need to make sure you're thinking about as a business leader to better run your business? And our goal is really to make sure that we are protecting everyone's time as we have now entered a different world of work, which has evolved largely because the way people are looking to invest their time has evolved, and making sure that you're using that time really well as a leader and throughout your team is key. So we're really looking to make sure that there's a point to what it is that you're doing every day. And those components we've actually done a nice job covering throughout this conversation, but please feel free to take a deep dive into each area, and each element underneath.
Yeah, and I also wanted to ask you, because when we think about purpose-driven business, very often we are thinking about non-profit organizations that, I will not make any money or what. So do you agree with this, or would you argue with this?
So we agree those people can be purpose-driven business. The difference is there seems to be this interesting moment happening. So when you were in school and you would go to lunch, there was typically different tables where people could sit. And some of those were based around interests. These were the video game kids. These are the sports kids. Sometimes it was based around these are the cool kids and these are the not cool kids. And we're starting to do the same thing with purpose-driven business, where we have started to create this sense of, well, if you're not doing a social, head in the clouds, higher social purpose, saving the world mantra, well, then you're not really purpose-driven. And I think that conversation really misses the point of being purpose-driven. Yes, your purpose can be societally driven. It can be tied to the Sustainable Development Goals. It does not have to be. There are a lot of ways to provide value into the world. The point is to make sure that you're orienting your business around delivering that value, and making sure that that's where your effort and resources are going, more than it's about, any one particular type of value that's going out into the world, and recognizing the business at this point is now human-centered, rather than being treated as more of a machine that can be efficiented to death. We really can't.
Yeah, definitely. Great. So, Katie, if our listeners want to know more about what you do and they want to know more about MatterLogic and contact you, maybe ask you some additional questions. So where can we find you in the internet?
So there's a couple ways you can find me personally. Is on LinkedIn is the best way. And if you want to connect with me, if you want to ask me any questions, I'm more than happy to take the time to do that. The other great place to find more about this is on the MatterLogic website, which is www.matterlogic.co. We have actually published our full system, our principles, what is a purpose in the first place, all on this website for you to go read, learn, and hopefully use to advance your business and the work you're doing every day. If you want to get some insights delivered right to your inbox, the best thing to do is to join our weekly community, which you can do at matterlogic.co/weekly. We'd love to have you and to learn from you and hopefully share some insights that will help you to run a purpose-driven business that's focused on what matters.
Thank you, Katie, for sharing your insights on purpose-driven business. Thank you so much for what you're doing, for helping other entrepreneurs and other companies. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Absolute delight. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know that you listened by tagging me in your LinkedIn profile and using a hashtag Ideas and Leaders. See you in the next episode.